Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the path.
And you're listening to Live from the Path, coming from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper.
Hey, Ben, do you do your own taxes?
I have always done my own taxes. I was threatening not to do it this year. I feel like I might have complicated my tax situation.
I was thinking the same thing. I don't know what point I think that I should get someone else to do it, but I'm struggling. It doesn't. Everyone else seems to be getting better refunds than me, and I think, how can that be? Is it because I'm doing it myself on the TurboTax?
I gave up the TurboTax years ago.
What do you do?
Years ago. I go to Mark.
Mark?
Mark.
Mark the tax man?
Yeah.
How biblical.
My dad said I use Mark, and so I said, okay, give me his number.
Have you been happy with the results?
No. I have not. I'm finding a new tax man this year. Take that, Mark. I don't mean it, Mark. It's not against you. It's just I feel like I've heard before that with rental properties, there's things to move around and losses and gains, and I feel like Mark didn't do it for me last year.
Mark's out. If you need a tax man, go ahead and get a hold of the Live from the Path complaint line, Ben.
Yeah, it's 515-517-0085. You could call or text and just let us know you're in need of a tax man, and we'll pray on that for you.
Yeah. Or tell us the name of your tax man so we could fish around.
Yeah, so I went to talk to a guy because I thought just the income coming from not just one spot. And so I went to talk to a guy, and I think it was going to be $300 and some or something. And I don't want to pay any money. But I mean, by the time I
I feel that way when I go to the store and get my car fixed.
I just want it to be free. But I feel like when I was using the TurboTax, it was still $125 by the time I got the software where I could say, hey, I lost money podcasting or something. And so, maybe just to know, maybe it's just like every 10 years I should pay a guy to do it just so I look like I know that year it was good. Everything else is built on Skittles and Badgers, but that guy did it right.
Doesn't like a good tax professional look? They'll look at this year's return and go, "Oh yeah, here's big money." And they're like, "We're going to look at the last one too. You might have been and file you an amendment and get a couple more $100."
I got like 15 grand back doing that.
What?
Really?
Yeah. I had a pretty high dollar place I was going to for years.
Yeah.
It was costing me close to $500 a year to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know, for whatever reason, something just told me I gotta find someone else. So I found a new guy. He's actually like across the state, but because I'm a pastor, he does it for $100.
Oh, nice.
Which was like, I'm like, okay, I like him already. But then he was looking at stuff going, he screwed up, and it was a housing allowance issue. It was like the guy forgot. It was he only did it 2 years, but he had me pay taxes on my housing allowance, and that was like 15 grand.
Wow.
And I didn't catch it, and he didn't catch it, and all the people that check it after him didn't catch it. But this one guy he's good.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah, I saw that right away. He filed all the stuff for me. And
nice.
That's why I got a new truck.
All right, maybe we should get a tax man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a tax man.
Okay, if you find one, Nathaniel.
Well, Dan sounds like he's got a good one.
Yeah, but you're not a pastor.
Is that guy only do pastor taxes?
He does everybody's, but he gives a very deep discount to preachers.
Okay.
So he's probably $500 for the regular Samaritan like me and Nathaniel.
It's in a little town over by the river.
I see you won't divulge the name of the town.
Do you want me to
yet.
say it on? I mean,
No.
we have a very large
No,
audience here.
I don't want to be fighting a bunch of people for
we
this
need
tax
to
man.
pay sponsorship if I'm going to mention his name.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's deal with
We'll
him
sell his
locally,
T-shirts.
and then we'll
Okay.
go from there.
Yeah.
All right. Someone else has got to try him besides Pastor Dan.
Yeah. Nathaniel, you're on board.
I was gonna go to the guy that Ben went to.
Okay. Yeah.
I was gonna pony up $300.
Wait a minute. What was your overall impression of him?
I think, he made things sound really simple. I had a list of like 10 questions. It's income, man. Like, oh, but what about this? Income. What about this? Income. I thought I was being real complicated, and he's like, he goes, it's not really that difficult. He goes, and what did he tell me? He said something interesting about the tax software. He said that if you're using like the basic take the H&R Block or the TurboTax,
Yeah.
he goes, that same company sells me software for like 10 grand. And he goes, it's different.
Oh.
He goes, it's better. It's obviously better. And he goes, I still double check all of it because you just never, you never know. They're software makers. They're not necessarily tax people all the time. And he goes, I'm going to run back through it. But like, it is a different experience as to whether you are, you're doing it by yourself and whether I'm using the software made by the same company. He goes, you're probably missing out on some stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I want to try them.
Plus, this year I started well, I didn't start it. I was kind of thrown into it, but like a holding company. So
Yeah.
it's like, what do I do with that? I don't even know if I made money on
You
that.
hold it.
I don't either. Yeah, you just hold it.
Yeah.
Taxman says hold.
Okay.
Hold.
So
Okay, anyway, we're going to go to Ben's Taxman.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the year of the tax man.
Yeah, we're going to try to do an adult thing. I'm 40 years old. I'm going to try a Taxman.
Adult team, this is great.
You think we can get a Groupon on this tax man?
Yeah.
If we all show up together?
I'll call him. I'll ask the least for a referral bonus. That way, at least I get and benefited.
Daggum.
Yeah.
No Taxman's like, boy, I hope 3 dudes swing in here and ask for a Groupon discount. He's going to up his price just because we're a pain in the butt.
Okay.
It's $400 for you.
Actually, now I'm kind of curious. So, if you've done your own taxes normally and then have had the experience of switching to a tax man, has it been Dan's experience where
Yeah.
you came out smelling like roses?
Swimming in Scrooge McDuck money?
Yeah. Or did you pay double to get the same information? You still owe $650.
Okay, just on while we're on the subject of taxes. Because, like, they always ask you, do you make charitable donations, right?
Yeah.
And almost everywhere I give my money to does not provide receipts.
Agreed.
And so, like, I have no proof that I gave away anything, but I gave away a lot of money. And I thought to myself, like, I never wanted, like, the potential tax ramifications to be the reason I did the good thing, right? And so, but, like, on the flip side of that, I mean, it's Caesar's program. Caesar is offering the tax deduct if I could prove charitable donation.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
But I can't. I got zero proof I did anything.
Yeah. You don't get to claim it.
Nah.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean-
this tax man will be more loosey-goosey
No,
with the laws.
it is Caesar's program, so you do have to follow Caesar's terms.
Yeah.
Don't you get to do up to like $600 no receipt?
Okay, that's something. That is the line of which can I get away with this? Not is this the appropriate use of the tax
I give
code?
all mine to people specifically and not organizations.
Yep.
And so it'd be hard to get receipts from them.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I don't have any. This was the big deal. In one of the debates with Donald Trump, where people were like, "Hey man, you didn't pay any taxes." He's like, "You let me." And like, he goes, "You should fix that." And then he goes, "And they won't because all their friends are there." And he's like pointing at Hillary Clinton and stuff like that. And it was funny because like he's like, "I'm gonna keep doing it because that's the tax code." He goes, "You should change the tax code, but like as long as that's the tax, like why wouldn't I not
I'd be
take
a
the tax
fool,
deduction?" Right. And so like there's no reason not to take the deduction if you gave and the government like is trying to encourage that behavior. But I would agree with Mike. Like that shouldn't be the reason you give. And frankly, if you had to choose and you said this is a righteous thing to give to, but there's no tax deduction, then you should still give to the righteous thing. It's just if it also happens to be a deduction, then fine.
I just need more friends that are a 501(c)(3)
Yeah,
corporation.
yeah. Listen here, I don't know, Daryl.
Yeah.
You
Have
need
you
an
thought
art
of
appraiser?
what's that?
You need an art appraiser friend.
What's an art appraiser do?
He appraises art. Like says this art is you
Okay, no, I understand what an art appraiser is. How does he factor into the equation?
Well, here's what they the people who don't want to pay taxes do, right? They'll buy this really crappy piece of art, right? And then they get their friend who's a tax appraiser, and they'll say, "Yeah, that's probably worth like $10 million." And then they say, "Okay," and then they donate it to a charity to auction off. And they said, "This is worth $10 million," and I donated it, this $10 million worth piece of art to a charity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then they get a $10 million tax.
Even if they
deduction.
only sell it for $2,500.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it was worth.
it was worth. Buy an appraiser.
So I need a shady, an underbelly type.
Yeah.
Okay, this went the opposite with the advice that I was thinking of.
Oh,
Nathaniel says the tax code allows it.
The tax code does allow it. It's Caesar's program.
Okay.
Here's the coin from the fish. Leave me alone.
All right, you're listening to Taxes from the Path. Thanks for doing this today. We appreciate it. Anyway, I am kind of curious at your text story, 515-517-0085. That's call or text. You can let us know. And so a couple of interesting articles I saw this week. So this one was kind of interesting. And the correlation may be spurious, but here we go. Rise in middle-aged white deaths of despair, such as suicide and alcohol abuse, may be fueled by declining faith.
Who paid for this study?
Okay, let's see. The collapse of religion in the U.S. may be driving a wave of suicides, drug overdoses, and alcohol abuse, deaths among the white working class. Research led by Wellesley College in Massachusetts found a marked rise in deaths of despair or fatalities from conditions such as alcoholism and opioid abuse, which are rooted in poor mental health. Hey, by the way, I saw a billboard today when I was downtown, and it said, "Stop the stigma," and it had the words mental disease, and it crossed it out, and it said brain health. Like it's trying to get you to say brain health. And I thought, like,
no, that's confusing.
Isn't the problem that you said disease? Like, could you just say mental health? Like, brain health seems like it could. There's too many layers to that. That could mean all kinds of things.
You could have a bacteria of the brain.
Yeah.
Or there could be a synapses firing problem.
Yeah. I thought it was just a real weird thing to argue about. Because, like, if you're trying to say, look, don't call it a disease, talk about mental health.
No one calls it a disease.
I've
never heard anyone heard say you have a mental disease.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah.
Like,
like alcoholism? Like somebody's drinking too much. You got a disease, man. You've never heard that?
No.
What kind of people you hanging out with?
I've never heard anyone say that.
People who skip on their taxes.
Yeah. Is that
Call
a
people.
Is that a pack of Pall Malls? You got a disease, man. Anyway.
Wait a minute. Is it wrong to call an addiction a disease? Is that the wrong way to phrase
like
it?
the Alcoholics Anonymous people would call it a disease.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Like you caught it, you contracted it, and you can also be healthed from it, cured of it.
Wasn't that a Mitch Hedberg joke? Where he's like, alcoholism is the only disease that people can yell at you for. You're like, dang it, man, you got lupus.
Anyway, it struck me as weird the level of which people are trying to go after language. Like, they purposely said mental disease versus brain health when almost everyone says mental health, and I don't know if there's a problem here.
I don't know.
I found the whole thing weird. Anyway.
I don't trust them.
Yeah, using official death statistics and surveyed church attendance estimates, they found these deaths began to spike in the 1970s just as church attendance began to fail.
Wait, so this is just generic numbers that they're pushing. They're not like, we followed John, who dropped out of the church, and now he's okay.
Well, they explain why they're oddly focused on the white middle class, white working class.
Let's see here. Research team looked at more than 1 million deaths from alcohol abuse, but they looked at the proportion of Americans that attended church weekly over the same period. Research focused on middle-aged white adults who did not go to college because deaths of despair rose in this group earlier than in other demographics. So they stood out. It stood out already.
Okay.
The rise in mortality was preceded by a decline in religiosity among the middle-aged, less educated white demographic. This change in religious practice was large, concerns a phenomenon well known to be related to health and well-being, driven by the same group whose mortality subsequently began to rise and occurred just before the increase in mortality. Huh.
It would be more interesting to me, like they're basically saying that the same data from, say, the African American population didn't follow the trend at all.
I don't know if they're saying it didn't follow the trend at all. I think they said that that group of white folks saw earlier. Like it was clearer in the data that dropping in church attendance. I mean, they're probably pointing out the one that correlates the best.
Oh,
they're just saying that they and it's observational. They said, let's see. The researchers suggested that when people stopped attending church, they lost the positive external benefits of being part of a religious community. This may have included social support as well as feelings of companionship. They also suggested that when so many people stopped attending church, some faith groups may have also collapsed, leaving them unable to support members.
Is that true?
Yeah, I don't. Well, I mean, it's been true. It kind of depends why people stop coming to church, right? Because I don't know that it's right to think that the church collapsed. More so, if you stopped coming to church, you neglected this. You stayed out of the infrastructure that otherwise would have been there for you.
Yeah, 9 out of 10, the place, there are churches that are closing doors, but faith communities have not moved or gone anywhere. People just stopped going to them, right? It's not like the community dissolved. It's still there. They're just not attending.
Yeah, I mean, churches are closing, but I don't know. It's I thought it was, Dan, I haven't looked at this in a while, but mostly rural churches that were part, if you're looking at by number, it's higher by count than it is by population. So like more churches are closing, but they tend to be smaller churches where they can't.
They've been
can't
declining for decades. I mean, it's not
Yes.
like because the population has been declining.
Yes, that's right.
For decades
They're
in that
moving
area.
out of the either if every small town you drive through in Iowa, there's a Methodist church, and even those are closing because the places are getting smaller. They can't keep a pastor there. They combine with the next local town that's got 50 people in it and that kind of thing. They said that people had begun to drop out of church because religion had become more closely associated with politics. They write, this decline was importantly driven by responses to changes in the U.S. political landscape in the 1980s, as religious and political affiliation became much more correlated than they had been earlier. Research added that the repeal of blue laws, which prohibited work and commerce on Sunday, also played a role.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true.
So I'm still stuck at, if they're not following specific people, let's say 40% of the people weren't going to church ever, and so that 40% is still there, and now say maybe another 20% aren't. So who knows? How do you know it's that 20% that are dying?
Yeah, you don't.
Maybe it's the original 40 who weren't ever going in the first place.
Right. So they're just making a swing and putting two graphs together. So it possibly
Yeah,
has no
look at that
correlation.
number. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There could be a completely other reason why this different subset of the population either is dying or whatever, and you wouldn't.
Because they've been partying since they were 14, and now their livers are giving out because they're in their middle aged. And I've done plenty of funerals of people like that, and they weren't ever part of the church.
Right.
I mean, that's not, I'm going the other extreme, obviously, but I'm having a hard time saying this equals that. When
Yeah.
it's like, I need
So
more.
here's what I think is a fair correlation, and maybe whether we got data for it or not, right? Like, like the religious communities, and I would specifically say Jesus, like that is the good news, right? There is a hope of a change and a hope of getting away from brokenness, right? And if like you will not find that in yourself, and you can very rarely find it in people around you. Doesn't matter how hard you look. And so, like outside of not even the religious community, but the entity and like kingship of Jesus himself, without that, I don't know where you're grabbing a bunch of hope from anyway. So, like, would you be prone to despair? Sure, because you've been trying everything else and it just won't do it.
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah,
won't.
and many of those people who have left weren't really in. They attended on a Sunday, so they counted in a number, and there's data for them, but they weren't necessarily like full-on Jesus people. They were just like, I do this on Sunday because that's what, family before history, that's what we do. But it wasn't like affecting their life so much. They were doing their own thing anyway.
Yeah,
I
and the
think
best
that's who's left.
the
It's
best
not,
a church community can offer you, right? Like is like fond memories and like a sense of belonging. But other groups can do that too.
right.
And so without, like honestly, the hope, like Jesus is really bold in his claims that like, I will take away the things that you've done. I will bridge the gap between a perfect God and a broken humanity. And like, I will do this.
Yeah.
And like a church community can't even be that bold in their relationships with you, And so like, it's hard it would be very hard to find hope in anything else. So like, I think that like I think they're using some junk science here, but like the thought itself, I think that's true right now all over the place.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, it's
What kind of scandalous rag are you reading?
what do you mean? It's from the Daily Mail.
The Daily Mail, like the UK Daily Mail?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, that thing that's the worst website ever. It's full of like weird videos and clickbait.
Yeah, I know. There's all kinds of stuff coming up. Also, I thought, did anybody ever watch Man vs. Wild with Bear Grylls? Anybody
yeah.
ever watch that?
He drinks his own urine.
never
Like
for more than 5
like
minutes
a
or something.
bodybuilder.
You know what's funny is that guy has like escaped. So the premise of the show was they would drop him like somewhere way out, and then he would have to make his way back. And so it was to show all the different survival tactics and methods on like how you might make your way out of the desert and make your way through the forest.
I'd be
and
dead.
Whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Dan versus Wild is one episode long,
Yeah.
and it involves his decease.
We're not renewing. Yeah, he died.
Then there it goes. That's not how to do it. Anyway, it was. I remember we used to watch it, and then it moved to Netflix, and you have the ability on Netflix where I think it's like a choose your own adventure. Like, what do you want him to do? And then you could see whether he survives in your option. or whatever.
What?
It's kind of. I don't believe he actually dies in the making of the program.
Okay, that's hard to take in.
Anyway, so he used to be like in the British, whatever the equivalent is of the SEALs
Oh yeah.
in the British Air Force or whatever. Okay. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. It said the survivalist and TV host is unabashedly open about his faith and how it serves as his foundation for living an empowered life. But he doesn't want to sanitize his message to make it inoffensive to a religious audience. And frankly, he doesn't have much time for Western church culture. He says, I think Jesus would really struggle with 99% of churches nowadays, the 48-year-old British adventurer told the Christian Post. Our job in life is to stay close to Christ and drop the religious, drop the fluff, drop the church if you need to, because that means so many different things to different people anyway. Keep the bit of church which is about community and friends and honesty and faith and love. All the masks, performances, music and worship bands and all that sort of stuff, I don't think Christ would recognize a lot of that. He expressed his distaste for what he called religious language, sanitizing messages in such a way where people can't be honest, can't express doubt, and can't fail. The church, he said, is the place to have doubts and questions. He says, look at the early church. It was a room full of people eating and drinking and doubting and struggling and arguing, he said. But the church today has gotten away from that. Probably most of the people in the congregation have substance abuse, and probably most of their congregation struggle with porn and all that sort of stuff, he said. What a relief it is when a pastor can stand up and go, welcome to the hospital, folks. Here we go. I'm just standing alongside you on the road, failing our way through, but reaching out of desperation for life and love and redemption. Let's look outwards and love other people, and we're in it together.
Wow. I didn't know Bear Grylls was a Jesus man.
Yeah, he's particularly fired up.
Yeah, he's on a box about it too, and I can't say I mind this so far.
No. Like I was cautious that the description of get rid of the church, but like I think the qualifications are basically I think what his perception of what some churches have become versus like don't disassociate yourself from the community, because he came back to that part.
Don't count the hour on Sunday as if you're a church guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, you went to a church service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but is it? Does it sound right? We feel now. Here, the question I think is like, is this a? I wonder, is this like how much is it true versus how much of it is a caricature? And how would you know? Like, because I think we've had this conversation before, many times probably, about some of the risks in, say, Western Christianity. But like, I guess I would be remiss not to mention that I'm not sure how extensive it is. Like, how representative are the most obvious churches or music groups or whatever of which this critique is based on? How representative is that of faith in America?
Large.
You think so?
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's like I bet if you had some folks look inward and say, listen, like, because I've been trying to do this in my own life, right? Like, if I had to go the rest of my days eating food that I don't even care for, right? Like, it's just bland, whatever.
Like
food.
pinto beans.
Yeah, pinto beans.
Pinto out of the can.
Yikes.
Yeah.
But it'll sustain me, and it'll keep my body up and running. And
Yeah.
can I go, God, even on pinto beans only and alone for the rest of my days, you're enough.
Yeah.
The joy is my joy will be where it needs to be.
Yeah,
I trust you with this thing, right? So, like, if I were to turn around and, like, obviously all the church atmosphere that they've created, they love, right? They bought it, they paid for it, they put a lot of work in it, they orchestrate it, right? And, like, the question is just to find out where your worship is and how it's going. Like, if we were to take it all away, and not just for like a Sunday to see what slumming it feels like, but like it's gone. Would it be enough, right? Would you come back? Would you still be here if the coffee left, the band left, the pastor had to like put you in groups of 10 apiece and come tell you, in different areas what the deal was, right? Like, no coat checker, no parking lot. You had to walk there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if all that got taken away, would you still go? Right? Is it still, and we're not even just like, I guess I'll put up with this, but like, my joy is here.
Right.
Right? I love it here. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And so I would guess, no, I don't think most of them would make it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in like a judgmental way. I'm like, if we're just being honest with each other, I don't think most of them would make it.
Yeah.
I think they would bail.
I'm going through 1 Timothy right now, and on Sunday mornings, and I'm just in chapter 2, and it really hit me last week. I mean, really, like, I was thinking, okay, what the stuff I was trained in the 80s, like the church growth movements really started then, and all the conferences and the classes and everything.
Yeah.
You know, you need dynamic preaching and good worship and, you know, plenty of parking and location, all the stuff, right?
Yep.
And so then I'm looking through at Timothy, 1 Timothy 2, and Paul's talking to Timothy about the corporate worship, you know, about when we gather together, what should this look like? And it says, first of all, I urge that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be made for everyone. Like all the stuff that we count as like this is key. Like I'm looking for a church.
Right.
Here's the stuff I'm looking for in a church. Now he didn't mention any of it.
Right.
He goes, yeah, I want you to pray.
Pray for everybody.
But you pray together.
I'm looking at it like, holy crap. we have like pushed prayer into like in a transition between this song and that song. You know, it's got to look good.
Yeah,
It's
why
gotta
the
yeah.
band's
make
moving.
sure you're playing in key of C because I'm going to hit this prayer. You know, and I think we have completely screwed up what Paul says. This is of first importance.
Yep.
You know, this is really go. Oh, and pray for everybody. Pray for the king, Nero,
Yeah, right.
who's lighting up your relatives in his garden
As torches.
as torches. You know, pray for him too, because we really want him to come to Jesus. You know,
Right.
I like we have. I think that's what you're saying. You strip everything away. Is it good enough to get together and pray for people that we don't like?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
right. It's pray for your enemies night here every night at the local church.
And yeah, we've I don't want to say like it gets kind of strong. We get real anti-church. It's easy. Those are great
Yep.
articles, and
Yep.
the church is terrible.
Yeah, right. That's what I was trying to combat. Like, are we being healthy about it?
But the thing is, there are some things we need to look at and go like, well, maybe we should get back to some, you know, really what
Yeah.
Paul said to do, and what Jesus said, I'm here to build a kingdom.
Yep.
And
You know,
really, it's just a good gut check to make sure the thing is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, are
Yeah.
you here because we're talking about Jesus? We're talking to Jesus. We're praying to the Father. And, like, we do want to take all of the praises that we have and all the concerns that we have and the things that we can't do anything about. And, like, we want to put those up as a community. And, like, if we, you know, I would just guess that a lot of it wouldn't make it. Right?
Yeah.
And maybe some of churches closing are good and righteous, or maybe some good churches are closing because, you know, the people wanted to go to church for a different reason, right? Like the one pastor who we can barely pay $20,000 a year to shepherd 25 people. They're like, you know, what do we do? All we do is sing a hymn and we pray and then we listen to a message and then we go home. I want more from church than that. Like, what do you mean? What more do you?
What do you want to
I want a
happen
team.
in there?
What more do you
I
want?
want to feel good.
Right. Yeah. And so like sometimes like good churches are closing because like we shined up a church that like they're trying to do the right thing, but it gets so easy. We're so susceptible to worshiping the wrong thing. Like they're created, not the creator. And like church is really guilty of that, whether they mean to or not.
But on that same thought that like churches never close. Like there's no reason. There's no justifiable reason for a church to close. You go, hey man, we can't support a building. Okay. Hey, we can't pay a guy to be in that building on a permanent or semi-permanent basis. Okay.
No problem.
Like all over the world, this is like people are figuring this out, and so like even the standard of how we think about. I think there's a good and righteous reason to have a building, a good and righteous reason to put a guy in it. But like in its absence, there's no reason for a town of 50 people to go, oh, the church is closed. No, it's not. No,
That's
it's
true.
not.
None of those qualifications did Timothy mention, or did Paul second. We're like, okay, you got to get yourself a location first of all, and then you got to get yourself a guy that will. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. And
if it's there and it's in God's good service, I don't think that's a bad thing. But like, if they say, look, this won't survive without it, then you go, okay, well, we're gonna have to switch over to Dave's house, and I'll take a job gardening or something, or at the dog mill, and like, I guess I'll be preaching here on Sunday for free. So, because this has to stay.
Yeah, and I guess that's the point. Like, ignore the thing of it. Like, it's our attitude towards it. What am I here for? What does it mean to be the church as a whole? And like, as our environment shifts, it takes all kinds. And sometimes, you know, as things get bigger, it has to be organized, and it has to be. You have to figure out the right people to do the right things. And there's nothing unrighteous about that. But like, if that's not the size that you're at, don't let those problems be the reason you don't be the church wherever you are. Like, we're not closing, we're not turning the lights on in a building, but like the church's doors are still wide open. And if we can't at least have an attitude of that same attitude actually should permeate whatever your size is, Then you're unflappable. Hey, man, they decided to start taxing the church property. Okay.
No problem.
Like,
Whatever.
either we'll move, or Lord will send the money, or
we'll either
split.
pay it or we'll do something else.
Right, like there's just there's nothing. Actually, it makes me okay. This is a little bit of a skew. I don't know the right way to say it. It's a similar exercise, but like you remember the part in on the Sermon on the Mount where he's talking about, hey, go the extra mile and let the guy slap you in the face and like whatever, and like or give him the tunic. And so, but the broad macro stroke there is to say, like, there is no earthly shame that will cause you not to delight in what God said was good. And so basically you're not worried about whatever the earthly shame is. And so, like, just to be unflappable. Hey, man, I want you to walk a mile. I'll go a couple. Hey, I want you to give me that undercoat. Or, like, I want you to take your top coat. And he's like, I'll go in the nude shirt, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll expose you in the process. And so it's just like, if there's anything where we as a church look out at the world and go, boy, if this happens, we're in trouble.
We're looking at it
I
wrong.
don't think we're taking it in wrong. Like, if this happens, okay, then we may have to shift and change, but we're not in trouble. We just had to shift and change.
Yeah. So I think we can agree with Bear Grylls in this thing. Is like God has allowed some of these churches to buy and exist and be there, and like I got nothing to say about that, right? But I will say that, like, if it were all to go away and you were left only with what Timothy what Paul's telling Timothy, like, would you stay? And if you wouldn't, we should probably have another look at that.
Yeah.
I'd rather know. There's a revealing to it. We talked about that a little bit about some of the identity expressions and things with people. And like, boy, this just seems like the break of all break and the sin of all sins. But like, I'll be honest, this feels like people being honest in ways that culturally didn't feel acceptable 20 years ago, but might have still been there. And then it starts to pile on, and then becomes more and more acceptable. But like, so at some point, I'd rather know that this is where people are at, and deal with the reality than the number of people that were coming to church and not engaging and not particularly believing that COVID then ran them through the strainer and they didn't show up again. You go, okay, well, I guess I see where this.
We lost a bunch of people. You didn't have a bunch of people.
Yeah, right.
You didn't lose anything.
Right.
They were sitting in spaces, breathing air.
It was
other
a
than
false
that.
sense of the gospel moving.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like owning a coffee shop and like you got 60 people in the dining room all night and you're like, wow, 60 people came in. Come to find out 10 of them bought coffee and the other 50 just showed up for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to know that?
Yeah. These are all just revealings, really.
Yes.
Revelatos, apocalypsos.
Yeah.
Right? So like you take a bunch of mechanics and say you shut down the mechanic shop, say, look, COVID, we can't be in here for at least 6 months. You know what you find out when they come back from their 6 month sabbatical? They'll be like, I restored a blah, blah, blah while I was gone. And I fixed this truck. And I bought this thing. And blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And they'll tell all their mechanic stories that continued to happen even though the place was closed, right?
Yeah.
And then the church does the same thing. And instead of re-meeting a year later, 2 years later, people like, well, we had to start our own study of Peter. And then we got involved with this online worship group or whatever. They're like, yeah, I'm just out. Because, you didn't set a table for me, and so I can't make it. I'm not going to go
My
anymore.
kids couldn't come to class, so I didn't know what
Yeah,
to do.
we took up watching MacGyver reruns on Sunday morning, and we can't be bothered. So like they weren't in it anyway. They were shining it on. Yeah, it doesn't mean that like Jesus is not still after them.
Sure.
Like with an intense love that he will hunt them down, but like as on a human scale, you didn't have them anyway.
What do you do? Like, would you have any suggestions of how do you set up your gathering experience in such a way that doesn't I don't mean encourage it, but doesn't like people don't get comfortable in that?
Yeah, because we want to practice biblical hospitality, right?
Right.
Like we want to be generous to people, like even as a church organization. Although once again, is that on the church as a entity or on the church goers, the body of Christ individually, right? Like I want to be generous and hospitable to all people around me. I am probably least hospitable when I run into one of you fellas, right? Like we're just like, bring your own coffee, whatever. I'm going to meet you up at the church. We're going to do the radio show.
Yeah.
I'm not bringing donuts for you guys, right? But now we have a guest come in. I'm like, somebody better pick up donuts, right? We should start on time.
Yeah,
we try
right.
to change the way we do everything. So like, would it seem like it's misplaced You know, like you're being overly. You're like a faceless corporation that's trying to woo clients.
I don't know that part's like I was just thinking through, and everything that you do to invite people into a good experience seems right. Like it seems like how you would rightfully do it. I like without I don't cattle prodding them every 3 months or so. It was like, hey, are you here just for your jollies? Like I don't know how you would make the right people uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't have any good suggestions
It's
here.
probably finding the right things, right? Like if Pathway Church stopped serving donuts, I wouldn't be like, I'm out. I will not continue to go here. Right? Now, if they took all the chairs away, maybe. If they refused to turn the heat on in the wintertime, I'd be like, this is getting outrageous. I mean, I suppose if we tried a 2-hour prayer meeting, and I'm like, this is taking forever, and I would have to be led into that. Right, like I probably have to be taught into it, honestly.
Right.
And so, like, it's probably less of a gotcha moment than if this is what we think that the heart of Christ is looking for, like, we teach that direction.
Yeah.
Because what we tend to do is we have these layers, right? We have these layers of we're putting meat down for the people that need some meat, and we got some milk up here for the people who are trying to just kind of figure out Jesus, and some of it's a little bit attractional, like donuts. We're gonna have donuts because, man, if that helps you get your family together and you don't have to fight about breakfast,
right? It really
does.
That does help.
Yeah, all that stuff, and but then those eating meat start saying, well, I'm just gonna have the donuts.
Right.
I'm happy with the donuts. And pretty soon it becomes, that's I think how it became an entertainment center. Like, it got to be the song that I like. I want the instrumentation that I like to listen to.
Yep.
And the style of music, and rather than saying, I don't care what we sing, I don't care who's playing and what's being played.
Right.
We're here to worship.
Right.
And so maybe somewhere along the line it's the lack of discipleship, which has often been our Achilles heel, that we're not taking people from donuts into true discipleship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And saying, really, the donuts they're just a hook. They're just bait. And you got caught. That's great. But let's introduce you to Jesus, who really wants to transform your life.
Yeah.
Which I think that is a good reminder, just as you're thinking about new year, new you here.
Oh no.
That like I'm pretty insistent. I think that like discipleship does involve individual relationships. Like you cannot just rely on mechanisms with the church, they go to the small groups, and we had the classes, and those are all good things, but like discipleship is it's a student disciple. You can't be a student of an entity. Okay, you're following, you're engaging in close individual relationships with people, and so like I would encourage you, if you're a person of faith, to look around and go like, do I have these types of discipling relationships with people? Not just did I encourage them to go into what felt like a class, because like those things will come and go, whether they're awesome or not. They're always temporary. They start and they stop, because you can't reasonably, if you're a person teaching a class, you can't disciple 15 people all the time. You need those types of relationships, and so it's one thing to know about it. It's a second thing to actually take a personal responsibility as opposed to deferring to something. And I do remember being in a situation once where like I was in a room full of elders, and we were talking about discipleship, and like we just did a quick check, and like nobody was one-on-one discipling anybody. And I thought like this has to shift. And it was a little painful. Like there was kind of we're like, well, no, I don't know if it why does it have to be me? Can't it be this? I'm like, it has to be you. Definitely.
People are out there going, here I am, Lord, send me. And the elders are like, I don't know. We got to have someone else for this.
and I think like the worry is like you're it's not like I'm going, hey, it's got to be 5 people and it's got to be every Tuesday. Like I don't need it. We don't have to. But like, can it be really that like if you're looking at 5 guys or 8 guys who are being elders of a church, and they all go, no, not me though. Not me individually. I'm not very good at this kind of thing. I'm like, wow, it can't be, fellas.
Yeah.
And so, but like, it's not because, like in that situation, it's not because they're not faithful lovers of Jesus. It's just like we didn't connect the fact that like you're often trying to make sure that the mechanizations to try to get people to listen to the right things and get comfortable and meet people, that we miss the opportunity that like, hey, you still have to do kind of the one-on-one thing. So similar example, in my job, I'm trying to grow a department, and I spend a good amount of my time trying to get people to like, appreciate the type of work that we do. But like at the end of the day, I've got like individual stuff that I mean, just like that's how it gets done. And I have to do that. Otherwise, no one's like, whether they appreciate the big picture or not. Like, are you doing the one-on-one thing? Are you doing the individual thing, the actual boots to the ground stuff? If you're not, then like your contributions to the whole are not. I mean, it doesn't mean much because we still have to do the grinding thing, that stuff. So, all right, you're listening to Live from the Path. How you feeling, Nathaniel?
Is bear a common English name?
No, I don't think so.
Is it spelled like a bear, like a regular old bear?
Yeah,
Like a grizzly?
yeah, BEAR. Yeah,
Is that a stage name, you think? Or do you think that's his Christian name?
I don't know. Wikipedia.
Barathy Grylls. I'm gonna look.
If
Anyway,
it's Alan, I'm gonna be mad.
or Alvin. That's even worse. If you got any feedback for us from the show so far, you can give us a call on the Live from the Bath complaint line 515-517-0085. I believe we did get something within the last few weeks. I glanced at it. It felt like it was Dan saying Dan was great, but I didn't really look at it, and so I need to go back and
imagine
check
that being the case.
I have to go back and double check.
Okay, his name is Edward Michael. Bear is a nickname.
They didn't put it in quotes.
They should have.
Is the Need to Breathe guy Bear?
No, that's a real name.
That's his real name.
Yeah, Bear
Yeah.
Reinhardt.
Okay,
Yeah, that's for sure.
Nathaniel. Scale of 1 to 10, how motivated or excited would you be if you were given the possibility to legally change your name from Nathaniel to Bear?
I think it'd be all right.
Like a
think-
5.
I think maybe like at least a 7.
Ooh, okay, that's pretty high. Now, do you feel any more strongly about either Bison or Falcon?
No.
I'm at an 8 for Falcon Foost.
Falcon Fuchs.
I'm
Just
a s-
because of
I'm
the
a
alliteration.
strong 8.
Yeah.
No, I think a falcon is a cool thing to be called anyway. Hey, Falcon. Yeah, it feels like I could do all kinds of things. Like I might be on my way to fly a plane, or I might be on my way to assassinate a man, or I might be a petty thief who they call the Falcon.
The Falcon.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wait,
I'm open to
Do you
Falcon
always
Foost.
get a definite article?
When I say it, I'm insistent upon the definite article. Other people do not respect me in that way. Some people call me Falk, and I hate that. I really hate it.
What about Falky?
Yeah, I'm against that as well. Although it does open up the possibility that I lead a band in a show lounge, like Falky and the Midnight Crawlers or something.
Oh, I thought it was like a fraternity name, like Falky. Where you been at?
Oh yeah, totally. Okay, yeah, I could get on board with that from the right people.
Yeah.
Anyway, if maybe this is a year of a nickname for you. I'm just opening the complaint line for all kinds of options. If choose a new nickname, let me know what it is. 515-517-0085.
He's published a devotional
Oh yeah, we should call him.
called Soul Fuel.
Is that the hold on? Oh yeah, his latest book is Mind Fuel.
I'm gonna read it.
He says faith, he said, is the most critical part of living a strong and empowered life. He pointed out that I think we neglect our spirituality at our own peril. If you've got that connection to the Almighty, everything else is window dressing. Spirituality is such a key part of a survivor's toolbox. I say arguably, it's the number one thing. If you get that right, everything else is bearable and possible and achievable. He pointed out that throughout the Old and New Testaments, biblical heroes from King David and Daniel to John the Baptist dealt with their mental battles through connection to God. The solution is always found in connection with the Almighty. There's always struggle, there's always hardship, but there's always faith, and faith always wins. Faith conquers everything. In terms of preparing us for life and keeping us mentally strong, faith is always key. He added that very few biblical heroic moments happen on their own. Rather, they always happen in community and between friends. It's always about togetherness, he said. Look at Jesus with his band of guys who he shared everything with, the good, the bad, and the struggles. They were always brutally honest. They were unchurched. They weren't smiley and nice. It was raw. It was real. It was painful. It was honest. It was angry. It was jealous. It was all of these things. But it was spoken, and it was shared, and there was an incredible community, and in a way, that is the church.
Hey, I signed up for it. You can do a 7-day devotional on the Bible app
Okay.
of the Soul Fire,
All right.
Soul Fuel. I'm gonna try it this week.
Give it a try. See how it goes.
I'm terrible about devotionals, but I find them helpful. Like I used to really make fun of them, and I thought, but like if you're balancing them out with your own time with God and your own Bible reading, I think it's fine.
It's like a pudding pop.
Yeah, it is. But it is like pudding pop,
Yeah.
right? Like you gotta eat an actual meal. But if you want to feel good about after dinner, pat your belly, and go have a run out at life, I think there's nothing wrong with
I
taking
feel
it
that same
emotionally.
way about the Message translation. It's a
yeah.
pudding pop translation.
yeah.
It's not. I mean, don't eat that for your day-to-day meals. But
Mm-hmm.
okay. Let's see. Let's give some advice.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Dear, live from the path.
I don't enjoy you, and you can't be called Falcon.
Dear, live from the path. I'm in a 3-year relationship, but my significant other, Ron, is extremely cautious about emotional attachment. 3 years, huh? It took him 2 years to tell me he loves me or even to express any form of serious affection. In addition, he's consumed by his job and worries about how his coworkers perceive him. He seems to prioritize work relationships over our relationship.
Yep.
Because I have been depressed by the meager affection he shows me, I began an intimate relationship with another coworker, Dan. Dan expresses no reservations or restraint in his feelings for me. He makes me feel appreciated, beautiful, and loved. I have strong feelings for them both, and I realize I have created a horrible situation. I don't want to abandon a stable, caring relationship that was cultivated over 3 years, and I'm terrified that ending the relationship in favor of one with Dan would be something I'll regret later. But I'm unwilling to break things off with Dan. I'd appreciate any advice.
So she's not married, right?
Right.
Just the relationship.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go with Dan.
Yeah. You've cultivated, here's the problem, is you've said basically, I've spent 3 years working on this garden. It has kicked out no peas, no lettuce, no carrots, no
radishes.
potatoes.
Yeah.
It looks like, frankly, a big poop heap. And then here comes along this bonsai tree of old Dan. Kind of takes care of himself.
This
Makes
free
me feel all right.
free spirit over here.
Free-spirited Dan. And you're like, but I've worked on this garden for 3 years. Sometimes it's just time to cut it.
Yeah.
I think it's time for old Ron to go.
Ron's out.
Ron's out. That's it? That's our entire
But
advice?
also, maybe say sorry to Ron first.
Why?
You suck.
Ron has emotional attachment difficulties.
Sure, but
Yeah.
Hey,
there's no
Nathaniel.
reason to sneak
Natha-
around on him.
Nathaniel.
Could have bragged it off.
You got to use
Oh,
the
sorry.
microphone. It's
Sorry.
a radio program.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
It's like,
So
Take
it's a problem that she's cheating
Yeah.
on Ron.
Yes.
she sucks for that.
Yeah, she does suck for that.
They're not married.
Damn.
So?
He's married to his job.
I'm blown away, Dan. With this advice right here.
I'm just saying she does nothing wrong. She's just like, she's craving intimacy, and someone out there will give her some.
I think the hanky-panky is going on with both of these fellas.
Well, I'm assuming that she's a pure woman and loving God and not being intimate in the intimacy, but
She ain't, Dan.
emotionally.
She's
No.
sneaking around.
She's sneaking around.
Yeah.
They like
would-
they like to have chicken McNuggets together.
Do they all work at the same place?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
she
sorry.
works somewhere else.
They're just having lunch together. They're having
Yeah,
chili.
yeah.
Chili.
Dan is her
Potatoes.
coworker. Ron is her boyfriend. Works at a different place.
Yeah.
He's married to his job. Took 2 years to say I love you.
I mean, there's no. I mean, why would you stay with that?
Yeah. I think Ron's going nowhere.
I have a feeling Dan's not going to go anywhere either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he seems like a good time Charlie.
Well, and frankly, like this is going to sound rough, ladies, but the same advice applies for dudes. Like you get accustomed to what you put up with. And so like if you found Ron shiny in the beginning too, right? And so now you're looking at a shiny version of Dan, and Dan shows up and you're like, he's way better. But like you've set the bar on what you're willing to tolerate, and a good man won't put up with that. Just like a good lady won't put up with your shenanigans either.
Yeah.
So like if you're trying to catch good fish, you need to have good bait. And so like you cannot be like this sounds terrible. I know this is coming off poorly. But like at the end of the day it's true. Like you can't be like,
That's right.
there's a good man out there for me. I'm going to continue to act in this poor way and expect a good man's going to tolerate that. The same thing is definitely true with ladies. A dude's like, if I could just find me a good supportive woman, well, if you didn't act like a 7-year-old ape, right, you could possibly find this woman. But
Yeah,
like
right.
a good supportive woman does not want to support a 7-year-old ape.
Yeah.
So like some of it has to be on you. What you tolerate is the type of relationships you're going to cultivate.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's true. And even the thought of her, like, I don't want to break it off with Ron because it's stable. And then I don't want to bust it off with Dan Fabio over here because he gives me the tinglers. Like, if Dan is a really good guy, then you don't deserve him with what you're doing.
He is also tolerating you having a full-time boyfriend named Ron.
Do you think Fabio knows it?
Yes.
Yeah. He
How
knows.
little do you have to be connected to somebody to not realize
He
that
knows.
they have a full-time live-in boyfriend named Ron?
Is he a live-in?
Yeah. Hold on.
Does Ron work in a factory? Why do I think Ron works at a?
It says makes no mention of factory work.
Oh.
He works in a factory.
He's
So-
a lawyer.
You can smell it on him.
I can
then.
smell it.
So you should be able to smell it on the woman. You can smell a factory man kissing a woman.
Except he doesn't smooch her.
I think the whole
'Cause he has
purpose of
attachment
dating
issues.
is
Right.
to find someone you can spend the rest of your life with, and it's not Ron.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
It's
I agree. It's
But
not
Dan
Ron.
shouldn't put up with you either, lady.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
out of there, Dan.
And frankly, you shouldn't want to date Dan if Dan is willing to put up with you having other relationships
right.
with Ron.
I'm very concerned about someone who is okay with me.
Yeah, you need someone that comes in and goes, look, you're cheating on your current partner
Yeah.
with me? No, I'm out.
Yeah.
We're
I'm
wrong.
either the only dude in your life or I'm not in your life. That's the way this works. That's
Yeah.
the kind of man you want because you want him to carry that into your married life and your kid's life and having a stable relationship for the rest of your days. Anybody that would put up with you sleeping around with other people is not the person that you want to be with forever.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
Here we go. You two-timer, Ron. I'm sorry, she didn't leave her name. Secular says, the question was, I'd appreciate any advice. Secular says, I'll try. Because your relationship with Ron left you feeling so empty that you went looking for solace in another man's arms, ask yourself whether you really love Ron or just the challenge of getting him to finally commit to you. You are unwilling to give Dan up because he gives you affection and validation, which are vital in a long-term relationship. Recognize that you are cheating on both men, which is fair to neither one, and do not think that Ron won't find out. If you want to spend your life with an emotionally unavailable workaholic, do the honorable thing and break up with Dan. If what you have been getting from Dan is more important to you, well, you know what to do. Here's what I think should happen. I think you should break up with Ron, and then Dan should break up with you.
I think she should continue the Bible study with Dan and let Ron go.
You seem very pro Dan, Dan.
I love Dan.
Oh, boy.
I'm with. You know what? Dan won me over. I think it's great.
Okay, let's see. You want to do one more? I bet we can get another one. Hold on. I just want to make sure it's a solid one.
Yeah.
There's a couple iffies in here.
That one's not iffy.
No, that one was just classic.
People are wild.
Classic
Yeah.
fodder.
Who gets? Hey,
Just
let me,
bananas.
let me tell you this. I was thinking about this today, and this tells you what goes how crappy of a husband I am. It occurred to me that I was lamenting in my mind in some ways of which I wish my wife would do this. I wish my wife would do that. And then I thought to myself, like, am I treating my wife in such a way that she would feel like want to do things like that? I thought to myself, sometimes when I work from home, we homeschool, right? So like they make breakfast for everybody, and I'm home, but then there's no breakfast for me.
No one runs bin out of plate.
I mean, sometimes they do, and then, but then sometimes it doesn't happen, and I'm like, why didn't everybody make me a breakfast?
That sure smells good.
And then I get to sometimes in my worst moments, I get a little sour about it. But then I thought to myself, like, when was the last time I got up and go, babe, I got breakfast, no troubles, and I intentionally woke up early enough, of which it would be helpful that I made breakfast for her.
I'm going to take a plate with me. Everything else is ready to go.
Yeah, and and I thought, not very often. And so, and there was probably just earlier today, there were just a couple things going on in my mind as I thought, couldn't I start with what's the equivalent for her and give that a go? Instead of just going, I wish my wife would do this thing or that thing. Anyway, I wasn't at my best today.
You need to just find yourself a good Dan.
Yeah.
I have done that same thing before where, I wish my wife would do this or that. And then every once in a while I'll pause and think, well, I wonder what she's saying she wishes I would be
Right.
doing. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to ask because I'm sure there are things.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
sure it's more than I think.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's something I really don't want to do.
Just write it down, will you?
Yeah.
Or just like
We'll find you a good Dan.
or just like feeling confident, like you kind of you feed off your if your spouse is happy with you, like if it feels like, you know what, generally I like this man, and I speak or interact with him in such a way that if you think that your wife is happy with you, like it raises the day, right? Then you can do things with confidence because you're like, this person has got my back. And then I thought, like, am I breeding in stuff in such a way? Am I interacting with her where like she feels that confidence that she goes around her day going, look, come heck or high water, this man is for me, and I know that recent, and not just because the Lord says we're not allowed to leave each other, like, but like she feels that way. And like I probably just normal rhythms. We do some of this, but I thought I'm not super intentional about that. And anyway, it was just what the thought was, and maybe this is general advice because it's for me, but it could be for anybody. Is like the next time or even current time you have some kind of lament in your relationship. Maybe the first thing you try is it possible that this is also true for my spouse? And then what might I do to help with that first? Because then you're not sitting there lamenting in your own situation. You've thought of something from someone else's perspective, and if you can start to take some action on it, it's actually 90% of the way there from lamenting your situation just by thinking of someone else and going to do it. But then also, frankly, happy people who feel loved and in a safe spot tend to be better at otherwise encouraging and helping the person that's close to them.
That's probably true.
Anyway.
How often would you say you're talking with your spouses about how you suck and what you can be doing to be a better husband? Like, hey, what do you think? Where am I failing, and where could I do better?
Well, weekly. Yeah, when we're at our best, we're asking that of each other weekly, and it's more of a
casual conversation.
Well, heavens at the peripherals of the day, but like it's more of like, what can I do? How can I be praying for you? And like, what can I do to make you feel loved? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, when
Sound
it's not
like
firing.
A yellow notepad situation.
Yeah, when it's not firing, it comes out in an angry confrontation.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That I know daily.
That I do very frequently.
So my wife had cancer. How many years ago? Quite a few years ago now.
Yeah.
Part of she was fine. Everything did they just did a surgery and everything was removed. Everything's fine. Part of that was and I don't get the ins and outs of all this, but was getting into the lymph nodes of testing to make sure it hadn't spread.
Oh, yeah.
Which it had not, which was great. But when they mess with the lymph nodes, it has caused issues with her legs. Like she has to wear
like compression stuff?
compression socks,
Yep.
or else her legs will swell.
Yeah.
Some, And the other day, I don't know, she was like, "Oh, my legs are swollen today." They do some, they don't others. And not like extreme, but just enough that it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I just went over there, I started rubbing her leg. Not a naughty thing. I was just rubbing like oh. And like I thought, why have I never done that in years? And we talked about it, like a couple days later, and I said, I kind of, it was just kind of neat. And she goes, "Oh man, it was wonderful." And I think what triggered it was I saw she had been looking on Amazon like a boot you can buy or something that massages your leg, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you're
I'm
like
being replaced by a boot.
I mean, yeah, like Ron's over here not caring about a leg.
Dan the boot is coming in.
But it was in an intimate, loving way. It was just a good thing. Like I'm just massaging making her leg feel better.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a dork. I never think to myself, I wonder if my wife wants me to rub her leg.
Right.
Or I'll think, oh, I wonder if she wants to rub her leg.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll go somewhere else with it. And it's like, that wasn't at all what this was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now I need to like probably be, more intentional about doing that. But
Be the boot.
Wait a minute. Now, Nathaniel, is this on par with how your place is going, or
I don't know.
you were touching base just randomly?
Yeah, I was
just to see where
I was
things
I
are.
mean,
I was trying to
Nathaniel's in a
gauge the
bit of
room.
a unique situation over the last few months.
No, that's probably true.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I
probably true.
try and we've been communicating a lot via text,
Yeah.
message,
Yeah.
and so I think about weekly. I check in, say, hey, how can I pray for you? Where we at? But then at least monthly, I like to say, hey, give me a laundry list of where I'm sucking.
Yeah.
I like the boat. Wait, did she generally have some things?
Yeah, sometimes.
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Although,
I like to have it blunt,
Yeah.
do you think, Nathaniel, do you feel though that like you feel like your wife would react positively to a proactive, not just you tell me where I'm stinking, but like where it's obvious you've put some thought into rubbing the leg, like finding the thing that maybe she's getting along okay without you, but like you don't want her to, and you found a way to be able to help her in such a way.
Yeah, I feel like that's where most of my that and my driving techniques have been my the marital rub, as it were.
Yeah.
Where maybe I'm just a lazy doofus where I'm not putting much thought in it. I just want to be told, like, just tell me how to do things.
Yeah.
And then I'll do it.
Yeah, this is standard.
Rather than like, okay, I'm putting forth some mental fortitude.
Now I'm gonna play a little bit in the dude's defense, and then I'm gonna double down on how they're really screwing this up.
Yeah.
It's like in the dude's defense, sometimes it does take a little bit of investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Like your wife and or lady has like way more thoughts going on in her head than you do. You're pretty much like a squirrel and a rock wheel in there, and maybe a belt, depending on. And like once you're there, you're like, yeah, I got this handled. And your wife's got like 85 squirrels and seems to be spinning them all at once, right? And so like the way that she feels a day or at a minute could possibly change. Like her favorite candy bar today could be Kit Kats, and the next day, like you've missed it overnight, but she had a dream about Kit Kats and she vomited them. And the next day you show up with Kit Kats and you're like, you insensitive boob. I hate Kit Kats. And like, this is possible, right? And so like, when I say that, like, it's not, it sometimes it doesn't come super easy. But the problem is like, you see any type of dudes, you see any type of like rocky terrain ahead, and then you just sit down and then go, my wife will cross this rocky terrain for me and then fill me in with the deets. And like, that's not going to work either.
Yeah.
You're like, I will do whatever you tell me to do. And that was our defense. We think, well, all I have to do is know, and once I know, I will absolutely do it. And you think, this is the high road. I'm willing to sacrifice everything I have for whatever you want. You just have to let me know what it is. And to her defense, she had to walk over the rocky quagmire to get there to tell you the thing, where you weren't willing to try to get to it yourself. And so, like, I think ladies know that, like, there's a possibility that sometimes the signals get a little messy and crossed, mostly because they have a ton of things going on. And dudes are, when your wife sees that you're not willing to put in any effort at all to help get to the bottom of some of those things, then she's like, okay, so now I have to put in all the effort of supporting and pleasing a man, and then I have to put in also all the effort of having him support and please me. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You know, that puts them in a bad spot. And I am guilty of such thing, for sure.
Yeah.
I will sit down at the beginning of the quagmire and go, when she gets here, she'll tell me everything that I can do from the rockiness.
I think that's part of what 1 Peter 3:7 is talking about. Husbands, in the same way, live with your wives in an understanding way. To take the time to, that takes some investigation.
Yeah.
It takes some, like, I need to understand my wife, and and that's communication, that's digging, that's research, that's looking over one day and saying, maybe I should, massage this sore leg, you know.
Yeah.
And why would it take me that long? Why does it take us that long?
Yeah, right.
To do whatever our wives are longing for. We should know what they're longing for.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, yeah, and maybe it just feels like it's not our comfort zone, because like if at any given moment, if your wife looks over and goes, look, I need something from the store, and it's that store that's like 40 minutes away, and it's 9:45 at night.
Yeah,
I'm like, sure, I'm on it, no problem. Like I'm every time, because what do I care? I have the car. We'll go get it. I would never expect her to go out and do something, and I would never ask her to do something like that. But if she asked me, I would totally do it, and I would be irritated if she didn't ask me if she wanted it, right? So, like, those are easy things to do, things that put you, that sacrifice your time or your mind space, or what, like your Saturday, well, I'm going to mow the lawn, like whatever. Like, those are things that we're good men are pretty quick to go, no problem. I'll go do all the things. But, like, because we're comfortable at that. We know how it goes. We know how it starts and stops. Trying to then figure out ways to proactively serve doesn't tend to be a strong skill set, and frankly, we've been on the other side of not getting it right, and it feels like a failure.
Yeah.
And so it's easier for someone just to say, because it's not our familiar territory. But I think that the right thing is to say, it's one of the things you don't just bail on and let her tell you. You work on it until you're in better territory. Some guys are really good at this. I'm bad. I'm not good. But like, that's not a reason to bail on it. It's a reason to double down on it.
Agreed. Okay, we got one more. And then
Okay,
we're gonna bail.
Yep.
Dear Live from the Path, That's the answer. My oldest daughter recently had her first child. She sent out christening invitations a month early after clearing the date with the godparents, church, and venue. My youngest adult daughter, who has 2 children and lives nearby, declined the invite. She is not the godparent. Her reason was that she and her family had tickets to a ball game on the same day as the christening.
Yep.
I suggested that only she attend and have another relative go to the game in her place, but was told she would be at the game with her family. What do you think about that?
This is going to be a christening question.
Okay, we're gonna skip. Let's say it's baby dedication day.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can take that in any easier. So here's the thing: is I feel like you're leaving. There's a lot of detail in here and a lot of backstory that would contribute to what seems to be a cold-hearted answer. Here's the things that stand out to me. One, my oldest daughter recently had her first child, right? So the oldest daughter is just now having a baby.
Yeah.
The youngest daughter already has 2 kids.
Okay, yep.
Okay, so just keep that in mind for right now. So, like, off the bat, I hear a possible, like, large age difference in like, the ages of their kids and the seasons of life that each family is in. 2, she was not named the godparent, which she felt fit to mention. Like, my youngest daughter is not named the godparent. So, like, that seemed like a small stab at her. I'm not sure why. And then the third one is like she just says, look, we had tickets for the game. We're definitely going to the game. So, like, I can think of 1,000 reasons why, like, this family is going, I hear what you're saying. That sounds like a very important event. My family needs to do this. My family needs to do this thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you don't, like, without explaining what exactly is, unless they're just, like, self-centered people. I know plenty of families that have made a decision, and I'm like, hey, man, that was kind of crappy. You couldn't make it or you couldn't show up. And then I talked to, like, one of the parents later, and they're like, the week that we had and the month that we've been having, we needed to be a family here. And sometimes we have to make a decision to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so you go, okay, I get it. I don't know. Sorry, I was thinking from only my space. So, like, this rings a little weird to me. Like, the whole thing, there's a lot of detail missing.
Well, I think a christening in many families is like one of the top 5 events in that person's life.
Like, it's like
it's like a baptism and a name given, and it's like a very significant thing to the parents.
Wait, the kid's not named until they're christened?
They may get their Christian name or something. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, the details I don't really know.
Like Falcon.
Other than they look at this as a huge monster event. And so they're probably thinking, like, you're going to a game. I mean, I'll buy your tickets. I mean, you know, it's like there's some water under that bridge somewhere where there's been some give and take and revenge. What am I trying to say? They have let each other
jealousy
down
and
different
stuff?
times.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just we want to go to a game, whatever. Because depending on the church, if it's a baptism, they're actually looking at that as the forgiveness of Adam's sin in this baby's life, and now the baby is good to go. I mean, it's
pretty much baby baptism.
It is,
really.
yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay,
so it's a monster thing for them.
So maybe they've walked away from the faith and they don't care
that
about.
Could be because I'd probably kind of have that approach too. It's like, it's not really real. Yeah, I mean, in my understanding of theology, but still, I would go, even if I'm like, I'm not into this. I would got a respect for my sister.
Yeah. So it actually feels like both parts, from my perspective, have options to handle this well. Like I would agree. Like I don't think you have to go, but I think you should.
Yeah.
And then if I think you're the person whose baby it is, like I think it's okay to want them there, but I don't know that you have any grounds to be upset about. Like I mean, I don't know.
You'd be disappointed, but be like angry or something.
Yeah, you're gonna christen the kid anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Adam's sin ain't forgiven.
Yeah.
Because the sister didn't show up, and like, and be cautious about creating arbitrary strike points that go, this is the evaluation of the quality of our relationship.
Yeah.
You do that. Like, there's no reason to call ultimatums on things, and like, I wish they'd prioritize this over the other things. It makes me feel like they don't care about a relationship. That seems like a really good conversation to have, but not a good thing for you to just arbitrarily decide this is the ultimatum point. It's not healthy and it's not necessary.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm old enough now. My daughters have been married, and I'm sure there were people in our family who didn't come to the wedding. But I don't remember because I didn't make it a big deal.
Right.
But maybe they had something going on. Maybe, whatever. It's like, so that's a big moment too. Wedding, a christening, all these different things. Yeah, you can elevate everything to beyond what it is. So they both need a little grace for each other.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any games bigger than this. I mean, the gal planned it out far enough that she didn't ask, hey, are you going to a game this day?
Yeah, I guess like if they made sure that people who were important enough could make it.
Yeah.
If the sister wasn't on the list because, hey, she's not one of the godparents, then I don't know what you're getting so mad about. Like, they obviously weren't so important that you made sure that they
Good
were
point.
free.
Yeah.
And what if it's like a little league game? Then this seems like a different
There'll be
conversation,
other
right?
games.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like if you were taking the whole family to Minnesota watching a Twins game, and like you had hotels booked and flights, I don't know.
Yeah, you probably.
Is it worth going?
Well, yeah.
The kid's never going to remember I was there.
Think of this too, is that like we, especially when it comes to coming to events, is that we tend to hold people who are living close to us way more accountable. And so if you had an aunt who was in Montana and like 5 states away and she didn't make it, you'd be like, oh, I get it. She's 5 states away. And like there's a presumption upon people who live close to you that they have to come to your stuff because they don't have other lives and they're close enough to you to come to it. And just like it wasn't the end of the world when the 5 states away aunt didn't come. Can't you just apply the same thing to this group of people and go, oh, well, they're doing something else. They're actually not close to me to this day, even if they normally live close to me. Why am I so mad at them but not at the aunt?
Yeah, and I feel like the main, like the turn of phrase is important. Like she sent out christening invitations a month early. You sent out an invitation to an event, not an ultimatum to an event.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So like you're inviting people to come, and like you can't be mad at them if they don't come. You just simply invited them. Like some people you would expect to probably maybe be there, but like it's an invitation.
Yeah.
Everybody lives their own life.
Yeah.
It seems unfair to overcrank on it.
Isn't like a godmother, like if the parents die, they raise the child? Isn't that basically what that's saying?
Generally, yeah, I think that is, yeah.
So it could be a little bit of hurt feelings with the younger sister.
could be.
going,
Yeah.
Well, what about me? I'm family. I mean, like I'm not good enough.
No,
I mean, it's like
you didn't go to the christening. You're out.
We didn't tell anybody who our children were going to, except the people they were going to.
I like to reserve the right to change that.
Yeah.
What if someone starts rubbing me the wrong way or decides they don't like to follow Jesus anymore? I'm like, you're out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something you can
right.
just update people on a weekly basis to say, look, you're out.
Yeah. Keep up this behavior, and
score
them
has
kids
gone
ain't gonna end
down.
up at your place when I perish. Okay, here we go. Secular says, my first thought is that your younger daughter ranks her love of sports above her love for her sister. Ultimatum. My second thought is that her priorities are out of whack. Could there be bad blood between them, you think? Long after that ball game is over and forgotten, the memory of her absence at the important family event will be remembered by the relatives she snubbed.
You're
Yeah.
over cranking on it.
Yeah, but we really just use the guilt. That's what we're going to do.
I get, like, again, so roll up to an event we could agree on, like a wedding. It would be great to be there, but like, I just am so cautious of allowing your disappointment of somebody else to otherwise taint a day that's focused on you and probably 1 or 2 other direct relationships, like the spouse, like the godparents and the parent. It sounds like the grandparents are going to be there. Like, say, I would like you there. I would love you to be there. But there's just no reason to hold on to it like it's a. Maybe it's maybe it's your sister at her worst. She's being petty. Okay. I mean, she's still your sister for the rest of your life. Like, you gotta. There's just no reason to force this into being the thing. It's a power thing.
Yeah, let's take it back to the first question of the day. If it was just you and the vicar and the baby, would you still do it?
Yeah.
Right? No one can attend. How about that? The church isn't available. You're going to have to do it at a pond down in the middle of the town.
Yeah.
Right? But it's you and the vicar and the dad and the kid. That's it. Like, would you still do it and find just as much joy in it as if nobody could attend? I think my answer is, your answer is pretty obviously no. No, I would not be near as excited about this if everybody could not attend.
Yeah, but yeah. I just and I think if it's the right relationships, those people will find a way to be there. And if it's something where they don't feel like they have like would move everything to be there, then like maybe you should just that's what it is then. Then you know that. I'm just real cautious about over amping on it or trying to make a final ultimatum out of it. I think that doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't create value. It doesn't make your kid more or less confirmed or whatever it is that's going on. Was it dedicated? It sounds like you got some room maybe there's probably some room to work
Christened.
with on your sister.
Yeah, christened.
Yeah. Oh, christened. Yeah. Okay.
Like a boat.
What's the secular advice?
We already gave it.
What?
I just gave it. I just got done giving it.
What was I doing?
Blabbering. Thinking about your next major point. This is you your whole life, isn't it? You're not listening to anything I'm saying. You're just like, bin time. Almost bin time. Countdown to bin time.
You think that relates to my marriage stuff from earlier?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's a real Falcon move.
You are not invited to my christening.
Yeah.
Well,
You've been listening to Ben from the Path.
Dang.
You can have a complaint line. You can call 515-517-0085. That's 515-517-0085. Call or text the complaint line. Tell us, maybe you're tired of Ben. Maybe you want to have your say heard. This way you can write it down and ship it in so he can't interrupt you or speak over you.
Yeah, it's going to be a revelatio. You go ahead and say that.
Apocalypse.
That's I'm going to check in with all of you guys monthly and go, hey, where am I really sucking?
Yeah, good. I'll just hand you the pieces of paper I've been writing down at home instead of having to send it to you.
Suddenly we get a lot of action on the complaint line from Mike.
And another thing.
Dear Falcon Foods. All right. Hey, thanks for listening. We really do appreciate it, bub. We'll probably be in here next week. We'll see. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.